This is USVI News, your Virgin Islands connection.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us for USVI News. I'm Emily Matson. We have team coverage of the developing situation surrounding St. Croix's Lime Tree Bay Refinery. We begin with our USVI News, Ali Bourne-Vanek, who brings us the very latest from the VI.
The big announcement regarding the future of Lime Tree Bay's refinery on St. Croix has come down. As reported by Reuters, Lime Tree Bay Ventures LLC is being dissolved. In fact, the private equity firm that had invested into Lime Tree has already taken the refinery out of its financial portfolio. The U.S. private equity firm called ArcLight Capital Partners had a majority stake in the Lime Tree Bay refinery through a fund. According to Reuters, they lost hundreds of millions of dollars with Lime Tree Bay. And the article says, quote, "The fund has since removed the refinery from its portfolio, while investors holding hundreds of millions of dollars of common and preferred equity in the facility have been forced to write off as worthless." This is all coming on the helms of the recent challenges Lime Tree Bay has been facing. Last month, the EPA ordered the plant to shut down for at least 60 days after a flare incident that resulted in some nearby neighborhoods experiencing oil on their roofs and, quote, petroleum mist. Prior to the flare incident, there were numerous complaints of an odor. Several government agencies have been investigating to get answers on these findings. There are still many questions that haven't been answered as far as what does this mean for the future of the refinery, jobs, St. Croix, and the Virgin Islands. We'll continue to keep you posted as things unfold. In St. Thomas, Ali Bourne-Vanek, USVI News.
And USVI News has uncovered some new information. For the first time, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is speaking out about the Lime Tree Bay refinery shutdown. We're also learning more about the refinery's future. Our exclusive USVI News Washington correspondent Matt Knadler brings us the story.
This is a very serious situation. We don't issue orders of this sort lightly.
Officials from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency tell us the shutdown order that closed the Lime Tree Bay refinery is just the fourth ever issued under the Federal Clean Air Act. The refinery was shut down May 14th after a series of environmental incidents and what the Biden administration calls public health risks.
It led us to lose confidence in the ability of this company to operate safely and in compliance.
To resume operations, EPA officials tell us Lime Tree Bay needs to submit a detailed safety plan within 60 days. Walter Mugden is the EPA acting regional administrator for the district covering the Virgin Islands. He says Lime Tree Bay has a significantly smaller staff compared to other refineries.
There may have been some human error there, so having a little bit more broader staffing with more attention may be something that the auditors call for.
Virgin Islands Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett is also monitoring the situation. She tells me right now that all sides are trying to balance both the economic and environmental aspects.
The Virgin Islands has made a decision that they want a refinery in that location, and it's their job to ensure that if a refinery is operating, that it's operating appropriately.
At the federal level, officials say the refinery's future largely depends on its reorganization plan. That's expected to be submitted by mid-July, a historic effort for the historically troubled facility.
We're all working as much as possible to ensure that if the refinery continues to operate, that it does so safely.
In Washington, Matt Knadler, USVI News, the Virgin Islands Connection.
USVI News did reach out to Lime Tree Bay for comment. They have not yet responded. We're also hoping to hear from Governor Albert Bryan's office in the near future. Now, from St. Croix to Washington, D.C., our team will continue to bring you updates and in-depth reports as the situation develops. We have a warning to vehicle owners now in St. Thomas who abandoned their vehicles. Move it or lose it. The Department of Public Works wants people with abandoned vehicles in the Fort Christian parking lot to contact their office ASAP. According to the laws, no junked motor vehicles shall be permitted on or alongside any street or road or on private property in plain view from a street or road. Several abandoned vehicles have been neglected and are in violation of those rules and regulations of the parking lot facility. DPW says it has made several attempts to contact the owners to remove their vehicles over the past month. So this public notice, they say, serves as a final warning. Vehicles that are not removed by 4:30 p.m. on June 11th next Friday will be taken into custody by the Virgin Islands Police Department and disposed of. Violators will also be subject to a fine of up to $2,500 per vehicle. There's more drama surrounding cruises setting sail from U.S. ports after a failed effort to settle Florida's lawsuit against the CDC. Governor Ron DeSantis is ripping the agency in a searing statement, branding its regulations as illegal and ridiculous. His administration is also threatening heavy fines on the cruise industry if it requires passengers to have proof of vaccination. Our USVI News' Haley Potter has more on the lawsuit and why the local government is wanting ships to set sail at U.S. ports as soon as possible.
With cruise ships finally preparing for test cruises with volunteer passengers, Florida's governor is turning up the heat on efforts to get the Centers for Disease Control out of the way completely. The state's lawsuit seeking to throw out CDC requirements has reached an impasse. The two sides have failed to settle, and the governor's office is going on the attack, saying the CDC has no excuse for ruining 2 summers of sailing, that it is trying to impose ridiculous and unlawful regulations, and that the CDC is once again proving itself to be a bureaucratic virus. A senior DeSantis administration official says the planned test cruises are a false hope, that they don't guarantee the cruise industry can pass the tests and cruise with paying passengers again. The officials say the only real answer is for a judge to throw out the CDC's no-sail order altogether. The official says the order requires unreasonable and unscientific regulations such as mask wearing outdoors. Alternatively, ships can sail without those regulations if 95% of passengers are vaccinated. But in that case, the governor's office says the CDC has no legal authority to mandate COVID-19 vaccine passports from anyone. Floridians' medical privacy is protected under Florida law. The state would seek to fine the cruise ship $5,000 for each and every passenger required to give proof of vaccination. And this lawsuit's happening as VI Governor Albert Bryan Jr. has also joined with others to plead the CDC to lift the no-sail order. Bryan says the Virgin Islands is poised to vaccinate enough people by July that would allow tourists to visit safely. Bryan estimates over 421,000 jobs are connected to the cruise industry. Haley Potter, USVI News.
According to a recent consumer survey, 80% of likely cruisers want to resume sailing on ships which require vaccinations. The United States is ramping up efforts to join the global fight to end the coronavirus pandemic. The Biden administration announced plans for the U.S. to share 80 million COVID-19 vaccine doses with countries around the world. The shipments of excess vaccines are expected to help with shortages in places like India, which is battling a devastating outbreak, as well as in Latin America, Asia, and Africa. In the U.S., the White House is trying to reverse a slide in vaccination rates. Meantime, the CDC director says she's confident the country will meet President Biden's goal of 70% of U.S. adults receiving at least one COVID-19 shot before July 4th. This as there's some big news on the vaccine front for kids, and it all comes as COVID cases fall dramatically. Here in the U.S., it's the lowest it's been since last March.
The pandemic numbers continue to show promising signs for the United States.
Already 63% of adult Americans have received at least one shot, and 52% of adult Americans are fully vaccinated. As a result, in communities and states across the country, the pandemic is in retreat.
For the first time in 14 months, the U.S. is averaging fewer than 20,000 new cases per day, hospitalizations and deaths at their lowest points in months. The White House Coronavirus Response Coordinator says he's optimistic the nation will meet President Biden's goal of 70% of adults receiving at least one COVID-19 vaccine shot by July 4th. But so far, the U.S. is only averaging 1.1 million vaccinations per day. That number was 3 times higher in April. So the government is getting creative. Anheuser-Busch offering free beer if the country reaches Biden's goal.
His leadership is to get people as vaccinated as quickly as possible, as many as possible, whatever it takes. Make it extremely easy for people to get vaccinated. give incentives, do whatever you can.
Dr. Fauci says there's a possibility children younger than 12 could get vaccinated by Thanksgiving.
We hope that as we approach the end of this calendar year, we'll have enough information to vaccinate children of any age. So I'm cautiously optimistic we might be there by the end of the year.
Health experts say they expect case counts to stay low through the summer and perhaps rise again in the fall when the weather cools and more people start to gather indoors. Despite the climb, authorities say increased vaccinations will prevent a widespread surge and increase hospitalizations like we saw earlier this year.